Good morning. My name is Paul Adamson, the chairman of the UK Forum. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to the Forum's 2022 annual conference. At last year's inaugural conference, we posed the question, will EU-UK relations get worse before they get better? Well, 12 months on, and the relationship appears to have reached a new low. As I'm sure will be discussed throughout today's event, the dispute over the working of the Northern Ireland Protocol casts a long shadow and impacts many areas where the two sides could in principle work effectively and closer together. A good example of this collateral damage is the question of the UK's participation in the EU's flagship research programme, Horizon Europe. There's also a clear danger that this situation becomes self-perpetuating, with both sides reluctant or simply unable to find common ground. An important exception is foreign security policy, where after Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, the UK and EU, by all accounts, are working extremely closely together, even if this does not make the headlines. But underpinning all this is the key question, do the EU and UK have, or at least are they developing, a longer-term strategy for dealing with each other? As you know, the purpose of the EU-UK Forum is to be forward-looking and, without being naive, focus on areas where the EU and UK could and should work closer together and explore pathways to make that possible. If the Forum makes some contribution to helping the EU and UK develop their longer-term strategies for mutual cooperation and collaboration, then so much the better. Let me briefly set out today's programme. We will start with a keynote address by Maroš Šefčovic, Vice President of the European Commission and the EU's Chief Negotiator with the UK. We were followed by a second keynote by Michael Ellis, Paymaster General and Minister for the Cabinet Office in the UK. We then have a series of conversations, starting with Stefano Sannino, the Secretary General of the European External Action Service, talking to Sam Fleming, the FT's Brussels Bureau Chief, about EU-UK cooperation in the foreign policy and security field and how that is evolving in the context of the war in Ukraine. Nathalie Loiseau, MEP, and Sir Oliver Held, MP, the two co-chairs of the Parliamentary Partnership Assembly set up as part of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, will then be interviewed by Georgina Wright, the head of the Europe programme at the Institut Montaigne. This is the first time that the two co-chairs have taken part in this kind of public discussion about the role of the Assembly and how it can be an important vehicle for constructive dialogue and problem solving. After lunch, Andy Bounds, the Brexit correspondent in the FT's Brussels Bureau, will steer a debate between Richard Shostak, who in the European Commission is in charge of much of the day-to-day talks with the UK at the technical level, Raoul Rapparel, the former Brexit and trade advisor to then Prime Minister Theresa May, and Sam Lowe, a well-known trade expert, formerly with the Centre for European Reform and now with Flint Global. Their broad theme will be regulatory divergence and convergence, the Brussels effect versus the London effect, if you will. Michael Klaus, Germany's permanent representative to the EU, will then talk to Stephanie Bolson, Welt and Welt am Sonntag's UK and Ireland correspondent, about coalition politics in the EU's largest economy, its influence inside the bloc, and of course, EU-UK relations and Germany-UK bilateral relations. To finish the conference, there will be a presentation by Kelly Beaver, Chief Executive Ipsos UK and Ireland, on some new polling undertaken especially for the EU-UK Forum and today's conference on attitudes in the UK and some EU member states on cooperation and relationship building in this post-Brexit world. Suzanne Lynch, one of Politico's most senior reporters in Brussels, will then discuss with her the main findings. Finally, I would like to thank all the speakers for giving so freely of their time to take part in today's conference. And I would also like to thank our sponsors, City of London, IBM, MSD, and Vodafone, whose support is greatly valued. I hope you will be able to stay with us throughout the conference and that you will have an interesting and thought-provoking day. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce Maroš Šefčovic. As I speak, Maroš has had to travel to London, so he kindly recorded his keynote address for us yesterday afternoon. Over to you, Maroš.
Dear Chairman, dear Paul, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry that I cannot join you in person today, but I'm happy to be able to speak to you via video message. The forum's goal of facilitating a constructive and informed dialogue between European neighbors is an important one, all the more so in the current context. There have been many developments since I addressed the inaugural EU-UK Forum annual conference last year. But the European Union still wishes to have a positive and stable relationship with the United Kingdom. We face the same global challenges, not least in responding to Russia's aggression against Ukraine. This relationship must therefore be based on full respect for the legally binding commitments that we have made to one another, commitments based on implementation of the withdrawal agreement and the trade and cooperation agreement, which the two parties negotiated, agreed and ratified. Let me first say a few words on the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland. In short, the protocol embodies trust. Trust in the political process, trust between the EU and the UK. We have shown great trust in the UK. For example, it is the first time ever that the EU has outsourced the protection of its external border to a third country. We should also remember that the protocol is the only solution that we could find together with the UK, and after countless hours of intensive line-by-line negotiations to protect the 1998 Good Friday Belfast Agreement in all its dimensions, avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, and protect the integrity of the EU single market. Moreover, it creates opportunities for Northern Ireland, promotes the all-island economy, and ensures that businesses in Northern Ireland have access to the EU single market for goods. We want Northern Ireland to benefit fully from this unique position. But let's be honest, we are addressing challenges created by Brexit and the type of Brexit chosen by the UK government. Therefore, renegotiating the protocol is unrealistic, and the EU will not consider it. Having said that, the EU has shown from the very beginning genuine understanding for the practical difficulties in implementing the protocol. Based on our extensive engagement with a wide range of stakeholders in Northern Ireland, last October, the Commission put forward proposals for far-reaching arrangements, especially to facilitate movement of goods between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. These proposals would reduce sanitary and phytosanitary checks and controls by more than 80%, cut customs paperwork in half, create an express lane for goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland, simplify certification with a single 3-page document for the whole lorry full of different goods, and allow the movement of certain goods that would otherwise be restricted, such as chilled meat, including sausages. In addition, our solution to ensuring the continuous supply of medicines from Great Britain to Northern Ireland has already been adopted by the EU in a record time. It was therefore with significant concern that we took note of the UK's government's decision to table legislation disapplying core elements of the protocol. This was done despite our offer to return to the discussion table and seek joint solution, which has been met by radio silence from the UK since February. The UK approach makes the current unacceptable situation regarding the lack of implementation of the protocol even worse. Such unilateral action is quite simply illegal. it is the breach of international law, and it is extremely damaging to mutual trust and respect between the EU and the UK. And it is not for London to unilaterally change the game and decide what enters the EU's single market. The protocol provides business operators in Northern Ireland with access to the EU single market for goods. The UK government's approach puts this access and related opportunities at risk. It has created deep uncertainty and cast a shadow over our overall cooperation, all at the time when respect for international agreements has never been more important. That is why the Commission decided to take legal action against the United Kingdom for not complying with significant parts of the protocol on Ireland, Northern Ireland. In parallel, and in line with the EU's strong and long-standing commitment to people and businesses in Northern Ireland, we presented in greater details our model for flexible implementation of the protocol based on durable solutions within the protocol. This demonstrates that solutions to the issues raised by the people and businesses in Northern Ireland do exist. With political will and commitment, the full potential of the arrangements put forward should be explored, and the European Commission remains keen to do that with the UK government as soon as possible. But while I can bring as many solutions to the table as possible, I cannot bring political will on someone else's behalf. Let me now turn to the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which has been in force for more than 1 year. I have said it before, but I think it is worth repeating. The TCA is not and can never be a replacement for EU membership. Even allowing for the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the impacts of Brexit on trade between EU and UK are started to show more clearly. Brexit has increased red tape, not decreased it. Trade is no longer as frictionless and dynamic as before. This holds true for both goods and services. Looking at goods, one result of Brexit was the return of customs border between the EU and Great Britain. This means paperwork for virtually every product shipped between our markets. And it means checks on thousands of goods being carried out on a daily basis. Eurostat data shows that goods imports from the UK to the EU in 2021 declined by 13.6% compared to 2020 levels and by nearly 25% compared to 2019 levels. In the area of services, reciprocal access to our markets has become more burdensome and costly. Eurostat data shows that the value of services imported from the UK to the EU fell by roughly 7% in 2021 compared to 2019. The UK's own Office for Budget Responsibility further estimates the total EU-UK imports and exports are 15% lower than they would be if the UK had remained a member state. Finally, let me turn to regulatory divergence. The UK is fully entitled to diverge from the EU if it so wishes. But this divergence has limits, practical and legal, and consequences. First, products placed on the EU market and services provided in the EU have to comply with the EU rules. Second, the Trade and Cooperation Agreement gives the EU the right and the tools to react where we think that the fair competition is being distorted. Third, the UK is bound by multilateral international agreements, in particular commitments under WTO, which set limits. And finally, the EU has unilaterally granted market access, for example, in the area of financial services, data, and certain food products. These unilateral decisions are conditions on the regulatory framework in the UK. Even where regulatory divergence is practically and legally possible, it will carry even more cost and will further deepen the barriers to trade between the EU and the UK. In conclusion, I would underscore that we have always respected the decision of the UK to withdraw from the EU. Equally, however, we have always maintained that Brexit is a lose-lose for both the EU and the UK. Given the challenges we face, including Russia's invasion of Ukraine, rising energy prices and pressures on the cost of living, it is more important than ever to strengthen Western unity. A stable and positive, even strategic relationship based on the international agreements we both signed and ratified is in our mutual interest. We need cooperation and actions that strengthen our bond and bring it to the qualitative level it deserves. Thank you, and I wish you all the best for the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much indeed, Maroš, and for your support for the UK Forum. You can't hear my thanks, but they are very heartfelt. We now turn to our second keynote address this morning from Michael Ellis, the Paymaster General and Minister for the Cabinet Office in the UK. Michael also recorded his keynote address for us yesterday afternoon, and we look forward to hearing his remarks right now. Michael.
Hello, I'm delighted to speak here today at the second annual conference of the European Union UK Forum. And I'm equally pleased that Vice President Maroš Šefčovic is also addressing you today. We both spoke at the inaugural meeting of the Parliamentary Partnership Assembly, the joint meeting of our parliaments, in Brussels in the month of May, which was a significant moment in this new chapter for the United Kingdom and the European Union. Now, I would like to speak to you today about the importance of our relationship. Naturally, as with any important and complex relationship, there are some challenges, and I will come on to Northern Ireland. But I first want to reflect on the bigger picture. The United Kingdom and the European Union share deep and enduring bonds. These are cultural bonds, political bonds, societal and economic. And as fellow democracies, we see the European Union as an essential partner. Together, we sit in a wider global alliance underpinned by shared democratic values that allows us to better tackle shared challenges. Now, nowhere is this clearer than in the work we're doing to support Ukraine. Through the G7, the UK and EU are in lockstep in introducing the most comprehensive and onerous economic sanctions that Russia has ever faced. Together with our allies, we are stopping Russia's access to finance, we are going after Vladimir Putin's corrupt cronies, we are paralysing Russia's military-industrial complex, and we're depriving Russia of access to lucrative oil revenues. We're working closely with the European Union to provide military, humanitarian, and economic assistance for Ukraine. Indeed, we welcome that the European Union has taken swift action with the European Peace Facility, providing essential military support to Ukraine, and the United Kingdom is working in partnership with a number of member states of the European Union to fulfill Ukraine's most urgent military needs. For our part, the United Kingdom is making available over £2 billion in urgently needed economic, humanitarian, and lethal aid. Next month, we will join our European partners at the Ukraine Recovery Conference to set out just how we will contribute to rebuilding that country as a thriving and resilient democracy. The United Kingdom is also working closely with the European Union on reducing dependence on Russian fossil fuels, also on strengthening Ukraine's cyber resilience, and, by the way, on countering Russian disinformation. And the EU and UK are bringing those responsible for atrocities to justice. The United Kingdom and all of the member states of the European Union have collectively referred the situation in Ukraine to the International Criminal Court. In addition, the United Kingdom, the United States and the European Union have established the Atrocity Crimes Advisory Group to help coordinate accountability efforts on the ground. The United Kingdom will provide all necessary assistance to the ICC, including an additional contribution of £1 million. Now, Russia's continued bombardment of cities and infrastructure across Ukraine and its blockade of ports has crippled that country's ability to export its produce. The impact of that is being felt around the world, but most of all, it is being felt in countries that are already facing dangerous levels of food insecurity. I commend the work that the European Union Commission is doing to reopen land routes for Ukrainian grain and to ready European Union ports for export. At the G7, the United Kingdom agreed further collaboration in response to Russia's weaponization of grain. This includes providing £1.5 million to develop a testing process to identify the provenance of grain imports, to ensure those imports have not been stolen and sold by Russia, so that Ukraine gets the revenue that it rightly deserves. Last week, at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, we also announced an additional £372 million for countries most impacted by rising global food prices. We set out a G7 offer to the rest of the world, including a further $4.5 billion to protect the most vulnerable from malnutrition, taking the total G7 food security commitment to $14 billion so far this year. Now, further to the extremely useful work of the European Union and its Solidarity Lanes initiative, the United Kingdom is contributing up to £10 million in material and equipment to Ukraine railways to repair rail infrastructure and help get grain out of the country by rail. The UK is in close discussion with the government of Ukraine about how to maximise their rail capacity and keep both the railway trains and the grain moving. We're working closely with G7, European and other partners to make clear that it is Russia's brutal and illegal invasion that is pushing up food prices, not Western sanctions. We must continue to counter Russia's false narrative. Now, there are significant steps, and they are an important reminder that despite the difficulties of the last few years, the United Kingdom and the European Union are on the same side. The Prime Minister and High Representative Borrell share the view that we need to prepare for a long war, which means we will need to strengthen and deepen our already close coordination on the international stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot let Vladimir Putin succeed for the sake of Ukraine and the long-term security of Europe. It is clear the people of Ukraine will not give up, and neither will we. We must keep up the pressure on Russia, continue to work closely in the G7 and with allies in other groupings, and maintain our unity in the face of rising prices and economic pressures. Now, beyond the immediate crisis in Ukraine, the United Kingdom will always be at the heart of European security, both as a leading contributor to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and as a staunch ally. The simple fact is that more than ever in today's world, free nations and democracies must stick together. As the Foreign Secretary said in her speech at the Mansion House in London, we must be bolder in order to defend our values and to counter the aggression of malign actors. We also see strong evidence of our collaboration and our cooperation with the European Union in the G7 and other multinational, multilateral fora to address a range of shared priorities, including, for example, on the Western Balkans, on Afghanistan, on Iran, and on international development generally. Now, among these are some of the most serious global challenges, such as climate change. The need to end our reliance on Russian fossil fuels underscores what are actually critical choices on energy to reach net zero. We agree with the European Union that the lasting solution lies in renewables and low carbon technologies. It's 7 months since COP26, and the European Union and the United Kingdom are coordinating to help deliver net zero and climate resilient transition. We must break our dependence on fossil fuels. We must protect consumers from high prices, and we must accelerate the shift to clear power generation. So the G7's economic response to Russia has shown the impact that this grouping can have when it acts together. We want to work with the EU and our G7 partners to develop an economic security mechanism to deter hostile acts that violate the sovereignty of the G7 and its partners, such as we saw with China's attempts at coercion against Lithuania. At the G7 summit, we secured agreement to further action to protect our collective economic security, including by, and I quote now, pursuing enhanced cooperation to explore mechanisms to improve assessment, preparedness, deterrence, and response to address exposure across and beyond the G7. Ladies and gentlemen, the work that we are doing together and with other allies on these and other pressing global challenges, from the future of cyberspace to global health, it's vital. So it makes no sense to allow our differences over the Northern Ireland Protocol to put this at risk. However, we do not underestimate the concern, so I want to take this opportunity to be clear about what the United Kingdom is and is not doing. On Northern Ireland, our overriding priority has been and continues to be preserving peace and stability. The situation as it stands is undermining the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, creating an unacceptable situation in Northern Ireland. There is currently no functioning executive in Northern Ireland as a direct result of the protocol itself. The Northern Ireland Protocol is causing real problems, both for businesses and for people alike in Northern Ireland too. Now, these include trade disruption and trade diversion, significant costs and significant bureaucracy for traders, and areas where people in Northern Ireland have not been able to benefit fully from the same advantages as those in the rest of the United Kingdom. We cannot allow this situation to continue. We must fix the domestic impact of the Northern Ireland Protocol. We must stabilise the situation in Northern Ireland to allow the formation of an executive, thereby protecting the Belfast Good Friday Agreement. So, ladies and gentlemen, the legislation that we have introduced into Parliament will fix practical problems that the Northern Ireland Protocol has created in Northern Ireland. The legislation we've introduced will avoid a hard border, It will protect the integrity of the United Kingdom, and most importantly for the EU, it will safeguard the single market. It will restore the balance inherent in the objectives of the protocol. But let me be clear. We are not scrapping the protocol. We are protecting the elements of the protocol that work, such as, for example, those elements that ensure north-south cooperation and those that support the common travel area. And we are then fixing those elements of the protocol that do not work. So we must protect the Belfast Good Friday Agreement in all its dimensions. We must allow goods to flow freely, and they must be allowed to flow freely from east to west as well as north to south. We must ensure that people in Northern Ireland are themselves not disadvantaged relevant to the rest of the United Kingdom. Now, we have spent hundreds of hours engaged in negotiations with the European Union and examining the 4 non-papers the European Union published in October. But I regret to say that after intensive negotiations, it is our clear view that the European Union's proposals would increase burdens on businesses and citizens. They would take us backwards from where we are today. Moreover, those European Union proposals do not cover the breadth of issues that need to be fixed. It is therefore disappointing that the proposals the European Union published a fortnight ago are no different to their October papers. We have gone out of our way to ensure none of our proposals risk undermining the integrity of either the European Union or the United Kingdom's single market. The bill provides clear safeguards for the EU market. Full EU checks, controls, and customs procedures will apply to goods going through the red line, and the rules will be enforced with strict penalties. Additionally, there will be robust enforcement around our dual regulatory model and our trusted trader scheme, including real-time data sharing. We've created new systems to provide the EU with commercial data they have asked for, so that the EU can have full confidence that no goods are being smuggled into either. Our preference is still to resolve this through talks. Our door remains open. But the European Union has so far not been willing to change the protocol, which is necessary to deliver the solutions needed for Northern Ireland. Now, as we work through this, it is important we do not lose sight of the bigger picture. We do not believe that disagreement in one part of the relationship should undermine important cooperation in other areas. The European Union take a different view, and we've seen that in the completely unjustified delay to UK accession to Horizon and other European Union programmes, when the UK has frankly done everything on its side that is required for accession to those programmes. Now this, frankly, puts long-term scientific collaboration on shared challenges at risk. And this is particularly regrettable when the greatest challenges we face, like tackling global pandemics, like reaching net zero or finding new sources of energy, all of those require cross-border cooperation. I want to be clear that there are ways forward to resolve the challenges with regards to the Northern Ireland Protocol. No doubt there will be other challenges in the years to come too. We want success for the European Union, and we hope the Union wants that for us too. When it comes to the most crucial global issues, the threats we face and our vision of the future, the United Kingdom and the European Union must continue to work together closely.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that. Hopefully next year's annual conference will be in person or at least hybrid, so our two keynotes can have a heart-to-heart talk in the same room. I think that'd be quite a spectacle for all of us. Thank you again to our keynote speakers this morning. There's now a short break of about 5 minutes or so. Please stay with us and come back in about 5 minutes for the discussion between Stefano Sannino and Sam Fleming. See you soon.